I opened my eyes and the world was completely rewritten. As the Omniscient Eye System has definitively chosen me. Right in front of me stood the region's prettiest girl, but above her head floated a bloody warning. She wanted an honest man to trap and a fool to cover her sin. While my sister rushed in begging me to dress up and accept the arranged marriage. My family was desperate as my reputation was at rock bottom and they thought this girl was a gift from heaven. They thought I would bow my head in gratitude, but they were dead wrong. Fix the wedding date today, she demanded. However, this marriage is entirely cancelled. And that one sentence turned the joyful room into a graveyard. You worthless fool, a high-class girl chooses you and you dare to refuse. As she tried her final card by playing the victim to force my hand. He raised the stick to beat compliance into me, but I didn't even flinch. Until my grandmother intervened as the only one who still protected me. Saying if my grandson doesn't want her, she is the one who lacks luck. Exposing her pregnancy now would ruin her, but it would also drag my family into a dirty village scandal, so I needed a smarter play. I calmly lied that I already have someone else in my heart, the educated daughter from the elite team. You a penniless toad dreaming of a swan, she sneered. I gave her a look that made her blood run cold because she knew I saw right through her. They left in anger, making an enemy for life, but I saved myself from being a cuckold. Yet the reality was brutal as we were dirt poor, and to make real moves I needed immediate cash. At midnight the system delivered its first profitable truth. Since money starts where others fear to look. Looking for ducks in July, you're a fool, Kai, they laugh. Let them laugh because the system never lies. 300 meters east and then turn left. I found you. It fought fiercely, but my grip was final. 24 massive eggs in this era was a small fortune. Just a bit of luck, old man, I smiled as his jaw dropped. Tonight we don't eat watery porridge, tonight we eat meat. She stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. My sister hadn't tasted meat since the last spring festival. Eat up tonight, you eat until you're full, I promised. As the rich aroma of stewed duck filled the entire courtyard, driving the neighbors' dogs crazy. My father returned exhausted and angry, only to be hit by the smell of luxury. He thought I stole it and that I committed a crime. This one is tender for you, Grandma, I said. The second leg went to my sister since she needed the strength to grow. Father, you are the pillar of this house, eat more, I said calmly. For the first time in his life my father couldn't find a single word to insult me. He changed, his eyes are different, my mother whispered. A rare wild ginseng, and my sister's hidden tears meant it was time to clear out the town's luxury stores. Digging ginseng requires professional tools, so I needed to visit the eccentric old hunter at the edge of town. The old man was notorious for his sharp tongue and he never lent his ancestral tools to anyone. Everyone feared his dog, but the system told me her secret. I hit him exactly where his weakness lay. And so the ancestral tools were mine. Deep into the northern valley, heading straight toward the old dragon cave. And there it was, the priceless wild mountain ginseng. A legendary root never grows alone because there is always a silent guardian in the dark. Panic breaks the roots, so only calmness wins the prize. I needed to remove the guard without making it strike. Smoke is the universal weakness of cold-blooded killers. It retreated, so the path to the treasure was finally clear. In the deep mountains you follow the old rules to keep your mind at peace. Tie the root so the spirit doesn't escape through the earth, as the old heads used to say. Now the surgical work begins, where one wrong cut destroys everything. The value is in the microscopic root hairs, so break one and the price drops by half. The midday heat turned the mountain forest into a suffocating oven. I didn't dare wipe my face because a single hand tremor would cost me thousands. Inch by inch the magnificent thick body of the ancient ginseng emerges from the dark soil with numerous rough rings and complex scars. A 5-leaf premium grade A king root, which is a life-saving treasure. The pure weight of it in my palm made me want to roar, but wealth must stay silent. I pack it in moss and seal it in bark, ensuring no one sees what lies at the bottom of my basket. Camouflage is the first rule of survival when carrying gold through a village of beggars. The harvest was a total success, and now it's time to cash out. Halfway down, frantic footsteps approached from below. It was my father, and he looked like he had been running for hours. You wretched brat, you skipped the fields to get lost in the mountains, and do you want to die? I didn't argue because he was terrified for my life, as the mountains are full of beasts. You risked your life for a few worthless berries, he roared. I brought something back that will change our lives, father, so look closer. He knew the old rumors, and he knew exactly what a professional forest rapper looked like. His mind went blank as he was staring directly at a miracle. Is this a king ginseng, and did you steal this, Kai? He stammered. I learned how to harvest it from the old hunter, father, so now hide it because we look like thieves if we linger. We moved like ghosts, as this root was worth more than 3 brick houses. We locked the world out and the treasure was placed on the main table. Before we could speak, the old hunter appeared at the door, scowling heavily. He smelled the fresh damp mountain earth, since an expert can never be fooled. He knew he only lent me tools, but if he exposed me my family would face endless questions. Yes, I gave the boy a few secret directions this morning, and he has a bit of talent. The old man lied for me. My father fell for it completely, and the old hunter became our family's savior in his eyes. Keep it hidden because wealth must never show its face in a town full of envious eyes, he warned. That night my parents didn't sleep a single minute as they watched that drawer like it held their souls. At first light my father prepared to take the root to the local village market. Don't go to the local market, father, because the dealers there will rip us off, so we are going straight to the county capital. The system provided the exact location of the highest bidder. We borrowed a cart and every crack of the whip brought us closer to real capital. 3 hours later we arrived at the epicenter of the region's medicine trade. The man behind the desk was desperate as he was buried under unfilled state quotas. Director, I have a monster piece from the deep mountains, and do you want to see it? 10 minutes of dead silence, and his eyes were burning with greed and relief. The state price is 500 yuan, but I can give you 560. Deal, he asked. My father almost broke, but I kept my poker face locked. The provincial capital offers 1,000 for this quality, director, so if 560 is your limit, we will take the train tonight. I was bluffing, but the system told me he had a fire under his seat, resulting in him snapping 800 is my absolute max. 800 yuan in 1982 was enough to build a small empire in the countryside. My father was terrified of the wealth while I was already planning how to multiply it. 800 yuan in hand meant nothing if we didn't turn it into power and resources. The system pointed me straight to the textile counter where Sister Lee was facing a silent crisis. Her son's wedding was on the line and she was stuck with dead inventory, which meant perfect timing. Hard day, sister, looks like you're carrying a heavy worry on that lucky face of yours, I said softly. Who are you, brat, and what do you want, she asked while lowering her voice. I know about the defective print polyester batch where the manager blames you and it's eating your bonus, so I'll take all of it. She hadn't told a single soul at the counter, so to her I was an omniscient demon. No coupons needed for factory defects, so give me the internal price and your son gets his dowry tonight. Normal price is 1 yuan 20 per chi with a coupon, but for you it is 60 cents and no coupon, she whispered. 64 yuan cash for a massive mountain of premium heavy polyester cloth was a total steal. In 1982 polyester was pure luxury and my father felt like he was dreaming away. We capped the run with 5 pounds of pure white pork fat, so tonight the kitchen would run with oil. The return was a victory march because my father's broken back was finally straight. At the gates of the village the vultures were already waiting as they were smelling our success. Look at them, did the Lin family rob a bank, and where did all this luxury come from, he sneered. Just went to the capital to clear some favors for an elite relative, old Lou, because a man must eat right, I laughed. Fried meat sauce for the noodles tonight, mom, so cook it heavy, I said with a laugh. I promise to make you the prettiest girl in this village and I don't break promises. For years they suffered under my bad name, but tonight the tears were completely different. Fix the roof before winter, mom, and pay for sister's school, then buy grandma's medicine while I handle the rest. From today on Kai calls the shots in this house, my father proudly declared. The peace didn't last because the system updated and the red text spelled bloody conflict. Zon Lightsy, the scum of the neighboring sector, had chosen the absolute wrong target. It was a double play to save the girl, secure the hunter's absolute loyalty, and crush the thug. I didn't wait for morning because the hunt was already on. The trap was set as Sylvia was walking straight into the wolf's mouth completely unaware. And there he was, the village parasite, smelling an easy prey. Don't run, little student, let's talk about life in the woods, he sneered while lunging forward. He thought he was king of these woods, but he didn't hear the silent shadow moving behind him. Strike 1 launched directly from the darkness. Strike 2 with absolutely no warnings given. I stood before him like an unmovable wall and calmly told him to get up, trash. He pulled steel, which was the final mistake of a low-life coward. You think that toy frightens me, I whispered coldly. Speed means absolutely nothing without the proper technique. And so I chose to brutally disarm him, sending him down on his knees exactly where he belongs. If I ever see your shadow near this path again, I will snap your legs in half. Am I clear? He fled bleeding and broken, ensuring that the path was completely secure. The beast was gone, but the girl was still shaking from the intense trauma. In her eyes the lazy village boy died and a real man stood right in his place. You were heading to the old hunter's house at the edge of the East Hill, weren't you? I asked directly. She asked how I knew a strict family secret, unaware that the system leaves absolutely no secrets behind. I told her the old man acts tough but misses his family deeply, so I offered to be her shield and the bridge she had been praying for. She walked with me, which meant the second phase of the layout was officially locked in. I commanded the dog to be quiet since even the wild beasts knew my voice by now. In his wildest dreams he never thought he would see his grandniece inside his walls again. Old hunter, look who came to visit you today, so you better prepare a heavy lunch for us, I said, winking. Get out, this is no place for you, and your father will break your legs if he knows you're here, he growled. The old man was a hard-mouthed duck, so it was finally time to break his armor for good. She saved those eggs for you, old man, but that bastard Zon Lightsy cornered her in the woods, I snapped. And the word assault pulled the old predator right out of his sleep. Did that scum touch you? The old man roared with his voice trembling with pure rage. While all the years of family blood feuds vanished in a single desperate hug. Your granduncle is here now, and anyone who dares look at you wrong, I'll skin them alive, he whispered. So the hunter's debt was firmly locked, ensuring my position in the northern sector was now untouchable. The courtyard transformed from a graveyard to a home, meaning the layout was completely secured. You can use my ancestral tools whenever you want, boy, because the mountain belongs to you now, the hunter said. With the hunter taken care of, it was time to deploy the real technical engine for massive cash. I needed a specific aquatic trap acting as a one-way maze where fish enter but can never ever escape. Only entry and no exit, as we call it, the black hole trap, mom, so can you weave 3 of these by noon? My mother was a legendary artisan in the region, so for her this complex geometry was simply child's play. Fine scale stream trout, you're dreaming, Kai, because those fish are ghosts in deep water and no one catches them, he sneered. Let the old generation doubt, since true capital always likes to grow in absolute silence. By afternoon the weapons were ready, standing as a perfect execution of the system's flawless blueprints. Next came the biochemical trigger, which is the ultimate scent for luring deep water prey. Blood and earthworms create a foul stench to humans but pure gold to the hidden stream monsters. I purposefully avoided the main roads because the vultures in this village have far too many envious eyes. The system coordinates pointed exactly here, revealing a deep water resting zone for migrating species. Drop 1, dropping the line to aggressively pull out the fortune. The trap was set for the night, so tomorrow the river would fully pay its debt. But right before I could leave, a gang of ignorant village punks invaded the sector. The system radar instantly flashed, targeting Xiaolei as the center of the upcoming red disaster notice. The sun is down, you brats, so get the hell out of the water before the river traps you, I shouted. Like cousin, like brother, they always think they are untouchable until cold steel hits their bones. I broke your brother's teeth yesterday, Gooden, so do you want me to hang your clothes on the highest pine tree? They instantly ran like rats, but Xiaolei's eyes were too proud, meaning he didn't learn the lesson. I saved him today, but the system's death clock for him was still rapidly ticking. The next morning, before the village roosters could even open their mouths, I was already back. The weight was incredible because it wasn't stuck on a rock, but rather something massive was viciously fighting back. Absolute success, as the basket was bursting with premium live fine-scale stream trout. 40 kilograms of pure untouched wild luxury, forming an absolute goldmine. These fish die the second they leave water, so I needed to move them to the black market instantly. My father looked into the jar and his soul left his body, as he had never seen this many trout in his entire life. I'm heading to the city dove market, father, because we are turning this into real paper capital. The old man was paralyzed by the old fear, while I was entirely driven by the system's lucrative future. The rat was already moving, meaning I had exactly 30 minutes to clear the zone. Trust your son, father, because I have the map, I muttered while pushing the gears to the absolute limit. Deep in the shadows of the city, premium wild trout was worth far more than gold. I have a massive banquet for the provincial boss tonight, so I'll take half the sack for 50 yuan cash, he gasped. The run was complete, yielding 110 yuan net profit, which is more than a factory worker makes in 3 months. The money was safe, and now I needed the ultimate legal shield to permanently destroy the snitch. I saw them from a distance, the rat and the tiger desperately waiting for my throat. That's him, Director Zahn, inspect his sacks, as he is trafficking capitalist goods, so arrest him, the rat shrieked. I didn't look like a caught criminal, instead I looked like a boss returning to his empire. Looking for something, old Lou, because I just went to the city cooperative to buy gifts for our village leadership, I said coldly. It was a perfectly legal purchase sealed by the state stamp, causing the trap to violently snap backward. My father said the director works too hard protecting our borders, so smoke these first, uncle, I whispered with a calculating grin. Is this your capitalist trafficking, old Lou, as the boy is showing respect to the cadres, and you're wasting my time with envious lies, the director roared. The rat was fully crushed and the director was bought, ensuring my name in Kingsan village was officially golden. A nightmare woke me before dawn and the air felt heavy like blood was about to spill. The Omniscient Eye didn't give a regular update today, instead it issued a death countdown. Xiaolei, the stubborn kid from yesterday and son of the transport titan, where the system gave me his exact execution time. 5 hours left, meaning if I save this boy I don't just save a life, I secure the ultimate key to the county logistics empire. I didn't even wash my face properly because survival strictly means beating the clock. I monitored my nephew first to ensure he stayed out of the water while the clock kept ticking 10, 10, 30, 11. 11:35, and there they were as the wolves came back to the water, completely blind to the trap of fate. My nephew stayed on the shore because of my ghost story, but Xiaolei just laughed and dove headfirst into the deep current. The palms of my hands were slick with sweat as I carefully waited for the exact moment. 11:41, the death trap snapped shut as a massive cramp locked his lower leg like an iron vice. The other kids thought he was just playing and they kept laughing while he was violently drowning. 11:42, time's up, meaning the Reaper arrived, but I was already in the water. The current was a roaring monster underneath, violently pulling everything down into the abyss. I locked my grip onto him, completely refusing to let the river have this soul. My lungs were burning like charcoal, but my absolute resolve was totally unyielding. We made it to land, but the boy was cold as ice, meaning the battle wasn't over. No pulse and no breath, just a dead weight lying on the sand. The village elders rushed and immediately screaming for the old method, hang him upside down over a bull's back to dump the water. Back off, because hanging him upside down will kill his heart for good, and I call the shots here, I roared. 30 compressions hard and deep as the old crowd watched like I was desecrating a corpse. In 1982, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation looked like pure black magic to these uneducated fools. What a pervert defiling a corpse in broad daylight, forming an offense to the village morality, they shrieked. Let them talk, because science doesn't care about their backwards morals, so wake up, kid. Sylvia broke through the crowd roaring like a lioness, shut your mouths, because this is science and it's called CPR. He is saving his life while you are trying to murder him with your ancient bulls, she screamed. A miracle of biology occurred as the dead heart powerfully kicked back into gear. The boy breathed again and the mouths of the gossips were shut so hard their teeth nearly cracked. Saved meaning the layout was perfectly executed and the transport chief now owes me his family's lineage. You're a maniac Kai, but you're a real hero, she whispered with her face blushing bright red. Look at my face kid, I am Kai, so go home and tell your father exactly who dragged you out of hell. The lazy scoundrel image was totally dead, and from that hour I was a scientific miracle worker in their eyes. The rat Lu tried one final desperate move to maliciously stain my name at the official headquarters. Silence you fool, because Kai used advanced medical technology to save a comrade's son, acting as an honor to Kingsan village. One more lie out of your mouth, old Lu, and you'll be digging ditches until winter, the director barked. The house was warm and the reputation was successfully cleared, so now we wait for the harvest of the favor. Before I could finish the soup, an absolute massive monster invaded our sector. A state-owned multi-ton carrier representing the holy grail of heavy machinery in 1982. The man himself had arrived, Captain Zhu, who was the chief of the county logistics division. Where is the comrade who saved my son, and where is my brother Kai? He roared into the yard. If it wasn't for you, my family would be broken today, because you saved my only son, so you are my blood brother for life. He didn't come empty-handed, because he brought the ultimate currency of kings. Maotai, Great China, and a new radio meant in the village. This was strictly equivalent to a pile of diamonds. The gossips looked at the luxury box and their hearts nearly completely stopped from raw jealousy. If you don't accept this, uncle, you are spitting on my son's life, because my brother Kai deserves the world, the chief boomed. I accepted the wealth naturally, since a real player never stutters when the rewards finally arrive. Listen up, villagers, because Kai is my savior, and anyone who dare touch him or lie about his name will definitively answer to the county transport fleet. The ultimate political shield was locked, ensuring absolutely nobody in this province could touch me now. The tides are turning, brother, so relying on fields is a dead end, while my division perfectly holds the keys to out-of-plan materials, high margins, and empty trucks. Out-of-plan materials meant the grey market gold rush of the 1980s, as he had the trucks while I possessed the Omniscient system. We clinked glasses, setting the seal and ensuring the path to becoming the sector's first billionaire was now wide open. A handshake with the transport chief sealed the pact, and the grey market was officially waiting. The system gave me the exact price fluctuations, allowing me to know what to buy before the market even blinked. Empty state trucks are a waste of fuel, but packed with out-of-plan goods they serve as a printing press for cash. City luxuries bought at factory cost intended to be dropped directly into the starved countryside. I didn't set up a public stall, instead I completely controlled the supply lines through desperate middlemen. Within 3 days the initial 80 yuan rapidly transformed into an unstoppable snowball of capital. In less than a week my immense financial shadow covered the entire sector. Rumors of my massive wealth eventually reached the ears of the vultures who had once spat on my name. She abruptly realized she didn't just lose a fool, but rather she lost a golden ticket entirely out of poverty. And yet they still had the incredible audacity to knock on my door once again. The snake returned, specifically wearing the calculated mask of a repentant bride. I looked at them strictly like they were bugs invading my sacred territory. Oh Kai, there was a huge misunderstanding last week, because Chunlan has been crying every night for you, the old hag aggressively lied. Kai, I was wrong, and I was just scared, as I truly want to marry into your family, she whimpered softly. The system clearly confirmed her true motive, revealing the real father abandoned her and the clock was rapidly running out for her belly. My father was utterly ready to curse them out, but I raised my hand, stopping him calmly. I intentionally let her believe she had a chance, since the higher they climb the harder the bone ultimately cracks. Keep your garbage, since my family feeds completely on meat now, I said coldly. You actually think I'm a waste bin for other men's mistakes, Chunlan, I whispered with pure menace. The stage was perfectly set and the massive audience was eagerly waiting for the final execution. You deeply want a marriage contract to entirely cover your 45-day-old pregnancy, so go find the city elite boy who left you ruined, I shouted. The secret was completely out and viciously broadcasted to the entire region. She desperately wanted to destroy my name, but instead I permanently turned her life into a graveyard. Before the hags could brutally make a scene, my legal protection promptly arrived. Get the hell out of this yard, as distributing lies and harassing a village hero means if I see you here again you'll strictly sleep in the county cells. They fled exactly like wet rats, ensuring the shame would heavily stain their bloodline for absolute generations. Revenge completed and trash cleared, meaning it was time to focus entirely on the real elite connection. The next crucial objective was to formally seal my alliance directly with the valley's elite mine. A promise is a pure pinky pact, Sylvia, so here is your premium city ice cream, I said. She fundamentally didn't expect a rough village boy to carefully remember a casual romantic promise. In the 1980s, an ice cream actively bought from the county seat was radically louder than a diamond ring. The old tiger significantly approved, revealing the path to her family was fully clear of obstacles. Bring the boy over for dinner tonight, Sylvia, since I'm roasting wild game, the hunter boomed enthusiastically. That very night the elite alliance was firmly signed in wild blood and hard liquor. This map definitively shows the hidden passes and no border patrol knows these routes, Kai, so use them well, he whispered. Another massive black market channel entirely unlocked, meaning I powerfully held the roads, the trucks and the mountain passes. I radically didn't hide my cash under the bed, instead I reinvested it directly into the village infrastructure to gain immense political favor. Kai is essentially our sector's vanguard, completely embodying a modern young entrepreneur, the secretary praised loudly. The foundation was entirely rock solid, leaving the entire village completely dependent strictly on my active payroll. I initially started as a penniless scoundrel forced into a trap, but now I was fundamentally the absolute kingmaker of this province. Level 1 system was a basic tool, but level 2 actively transformed into a massive economic weapon. The Omniscient Eye entirely evolved, forcefully expanding its active range to the entire southern logistics network. Corrupt state assets actively dropping value while a desperate capital city tycoon is waiting with raw cash meant my first industrial scale raid was entirely ready. I deliberately dialed Captain Zhu demanding to urgently get the trucks ready, brother, as we are moving massive timber tonight. 6 active carriers completely authorized entirely under my logistical permits, ensuring absolutely no inspector dared critically stop the Zhu fleet. We were decisively moving radically out of the village scale, effectively hitting the sprawling provincial markets. Absolutely every single hour of continuous travel was fundamentally 1,000 yuan forcefully added strictly into the massive empire. They were completely starving desperately for materials, so I confidently arrived exactly strictly on the active minute. Delivery perfectly completed, ensuring extreme high quality and absolutely zero defects, which is fully solidly backed directly by the system's tracking data. 300,000 yuan raw cash, solidifying fundamentally the first true authentic cornerstone, establishing entirely my massive multi-million-dollar industrial absolute monopoly. 300,000 yuan cash was just seed money because true power fundamentally lies in absolute structural monopoly. I didn't stay a local trader, instead I registered the province's first private industrial giant. The first move of Wangchao Technology was to permanently wipe the word poverty from my family's bloodline. My mother spent her whole life staring at soot in a dark kitchen, but now she confidently walked on polished marble. My father didn't have to look over his shoulder anymore since his son had completely conquered the county market. I actively paved the village roads with my own capital because in 1982 infrastructure was the ultimate political currency. The cadres didn't look down on the third Lin boy anymore, as they treated me strictly like a visiting governor. The snitches who tried to trap me were now forced to breathe the dust of my tires every single day. I absolutely didn't forget the old tiger who lent me his ancestral tools when I had absolutely nothing. You did it, boy, you turned the mountain passes into an absolute kingdom, the hunter boomed proudly. And I didn't just come to pay a debt, but I came to explicitly claim the woman who stood firmly by me against the village gossips. The elite minds of the valley were officially bound and the wedding date was decisively set. A scoundrel's wedding would be a quiet affair, but a billionaire's wedding is an earth-shaking manifestation of absolute power. 20 premium sedans formed a fleet that the local county logistics division had definitively never seen before. The elite captains of industry from 3 neighboring sectors eagerly arrived in a single hour. My brother's big day means the transport fleet entirely handles the guard lines today, Zhu boomed happily. A feast of infinite abundance meant every single villager was aggressively invited to eat until they couldn't stand. I intentionally fed the vultures until their hangovers wiped their memories clean so they would never dare whisper again. Beside me stood the sharpest mind of the region, ensuring that together we were completely unshakable. My father proudly looked around the elite crowd and realized our family was now fully part of the ruling class. The village chapter was officially closed, ensuring the local variables were fully conquered. 500,000 yuan in liquid assets triggered level 3 system initialization, meaning the grid was massively expanding. In 1982 the nation was opening its gates to international trade, meaning the real gold was at the coast. To build a permanent dynasty, Wangchao Technology aggressively needed to leave the mountains and hit the sea. First stop was the massive international port city of the east, which was the absolute epicenter of unregulated imports. Shenzhen is a wild west of raw capitalism where massive fortunes were explicitly made and destroyed in 30 minutes. Asymmetry of information is magnified 1,000 times at the coast, so the system pointed straight to the goal. 50,000 yuan cash right now if you immediately hand over the container keys, I said with my voice deadpan. He thought he was escaping a trap, but he didn't strictly know he just handed me the master keys to a digital kingdom. Foreign microprocessors are the rarest, most sought-after components strictly for the nation's rising tech factories. The local factory kings were aggressively starving for supply, and I held the only container in the entire sector. 1 million yuan and I'll buy the entire container right now, Comrade Kai paying cash on delivery, he eagerly bargained. 1.5 million tycoon, and you additionally provide Wangchao Technology with exclusive shipping rights for the next 3 years. He folded heavily under the pressure, meaning the coast logistics network was officially under my iron control. 1.5 million yuan in 1982 liquid capital meant the ghost scoundrel was officially dead and the billionaire dynasty had begun. The capital was entirely secured, so now it was absolutely time to turn Wangchao Technology into a dominant manufacturing empire. The local county radio factory was dying, presenting a perfect carcass for Wangchao to completely devour and rebuild. I critically didn't come to look around, instead I came to aggressively purchase their entire debt and machinery for pennies. Every worker explicitly gets double their old salary under Wangchao Technology, so decisively sign the transfer contract now, I commanded. In 7 days the graveyard systematically transformed into a high-tech powerhouse where production lines were aggressively running constantly. The Wangchao audio system was incredibly cheap to produce using my imported cores, but deliberately sold at a premium across 3 provinces. Our massive logistics fleet forcefully deployed the critical supply lines to absolutely every major city within 48 hours. A total consumer gold rush fundamentally meant the aggressive demand completely choked the market capacity. My core circle was locked since absolutely every post was heavily held by people whose loyalty was brutally tested in blood and fire. Net revenue for the first quarter was decisively 2.4 million yuan cash, she announced smoothly. 2.4 million, and the system overlay decisively blinked, confirming that my financial volume was now massive and larger than the local state banks. The past was completely incinerated, meaning the name Lin Channon was now strictly a ghost story. Move with absolute weight and perfectly speak with absolute authority, because that is strictly the Sigma protocol. The absolute highest circles of supreme power were now eagerly opening their doors perfectly to Wangchao Technology. They think I am a genius businessman who casually dropped from the sky, but they fundamentally don't know I am just running the loop of perfect vendetta. True monopoly always breeds powerful enemies, as the old capital syndicates finally noticed my expanding shadow. Director Gao, acting as the iron fist behind the state-controlled supply chains, boldly decided to entirely crush Wangchao. Cut their raw components and let's see how long his factories survive without microcores, he arrogantly sneered. The component blockade violently hit us within 24 hours, completely freezing my entire production lines. Gao actually thought he held my throat, but he didn't realize the level 2 Omniscient Eye effortlessly sees behind iron walls. The system extracted his entire life's corruption, detailing every illegal warehouse, every fake account, and absolutely every hidden asset. Zhu mobilized the fleet because we aren't buying components anymore, instead we are seizing his hidden reserves, I commanded coldly. Warehouse 9 serving as Gao's heavily guarded private illegal vault of smuggled copper and foreign cores. Gao left his best street enforcers to guard his gold, as they foolishly thought the darkness was their ally. But I brought the ultimate predator of the deep northern forests to completely handle the security lines. The Hunter's elite shadow division operates with absolutely no noise and absolutely no mercy. They desperately chose to fight, representing a truly fatal error. Strike 1, reminding them that the forest tiger fundamentally doesn't look at teeth. Forcefully disarm the head, and the entire body of the snake violently shivers. Pure lethal combat efficiency, proving that absolutely no street thug can match decades of harsh survival in the deep woods. In less than 3 minutes, Gao's entire defense line was permanently broken and heavily bleeding directly in the mud. Simply open the vault and violently reclaim the monopoly. The system was perfectly accurate, revealing 3 million yuan worth of premium raw materials carefully hidden from the state. Load absolutely everything, because we leave nothing but dust for Director Gao, Zhu ordered with a fierce grin. Gao woke up fully believing he confidently won the war, as he was eagerly waiting for my white flag. Director Gao, Warehouse 9 is completely empty and absolutely all our copper cores are gone, he desperately screamed. Who did this, and who explicitly dare touch my private reserve, he violently roared with his voice cracking. I did, Director Gao, and I assure you that's strictly just the first wave, I said calmly. I casually dropped the nuclear option right onto his desk, displaying his entire financial lifeline in stark black and white. One single call to the provincial inspection office and his execution was permanently signed by the state. You wanted to choke Wangchao Technology, so now you instantly sign over the entire capital distribution network to me, or you directly face the firing squad by morning. He absolutely didn't have a single card left, and he pitifully folded like a weak house of cards. The parasite was fully removed from the board, meaning the entire capital trade network now fully belonged strictly to Wangchao. Backed by infinite free raw materials, our profit margins ruthlessly exploded by 300% in a single week. We distinctly didn't just control the county, instead we fully locked down the consumer electronics monopoly of the entire national sector. Capital City fully conquered and supply lines secure, confirming the foundation was now completely ironclad. Net corporate volume has completely passed 5 million yuan cash, Kai, she announced with her voice fiercely echoing with power. We built this massive empire together straight from the mud of Kingsan, ensuring nobody could ever break our alliance. Level 2 served as an economic weapon, while Level 3 fundamentally manifested as a tool of global dominance. The 1980s global trade boom was rapidly entering its golden era, meaning Wangchao Technology was aggressively heading strictly to international waters. A global cargo giant was absolutely starving for cash at the Hong Kong borders, indicating my next multi-million-dollar raid was fully primed. Zhu, actively prepare the capital reserves, because we are aggressively moving our funds entirely to the international ports tonight, I strictly commanded. Distinctly move with maximum weight and expand the network until the entire continent inevitably breathes your name. Absolutely no borders could possibly halt the fleet of Wangchao, since the legal permits were fundamentally absolute. The arrogant colonial tycoons mistakenly thought they controlled the sea entirely until the mountain dragon aggressively arrived, backed by raw state cash. Exactly 1 million cash carrying international value, so aggressively signed the maritime transport permits directly over to Wangchao now, I said deadpan. He heavily fell under the absolute crushing weight of immediate liquidity, ensuring the sea passes were entirely mine. The global pipeline was officially initialized, and we were decisively moving materials from the factories straight to desperate international buyers. Absolutely every knot of speed was another 10,000 yuan rapidly added completely to the dynasty's volume. 12 million yuan liquid capital, confirming the village scoundrel who was forced to take another man's pregnant woman was now the absolute master of international waters. My sister was now actively attending the elite academy of the capital, meaning her bright future was forever carved in pure marble. My parents walked with their heads held high since the old village Humiliation was completely incinerated from their memories. The brutal loop of vengeance was finally complete as absolutely every enemy was strictly crushed and completely every debt was paid with heavy interest. The village ultimately gave me birth, but the omniscient system gave me the entire world, so I left the mud behind entirely forever. I am Kai, acting as the absolute host of the Omniscient Eye and master of Wangchao, strictly confirming that this province is completely just the beginning of my loop. The village chapter was officially closed as the local variables were fully conquered. We left the mud behind forever, ensuring the name Lin Channon was now strictly a historical legend. Beside me stood the only woman who completely believed in my vision when I was absolutely a nobody. My family and my allies were entirely protected by an iron wall of absolute security. The Omniscient Eye System scan fully completed its deep regional overview, confirming that absolutely every major supply line, every factory and every trade post in 3 provinces was completely locked. Under Captain Zhu, our massive logistics matrix systematically functioned exactly like a flawless mechanical clock. But a true monarch essentially never aggressively stops at a mere regional victory. The next calculated phase of the layout strictly required forcefully entering the massive central trade hubs. We firmly held the absolute cash while entirely holding the critical transportation and decisively holding all state permits. Our relentless production volume was now officially exponentially larger than the capital state enterprises. I methodically built an absolute army of markets, forming an elite network strictly loyal only to the commanding flag of Wangchao. Absolutely every step we ruthlessly took carried the absolute crushing weight of multi-million-dollar monopoly capital. Even the highest regional leaders actively treated Wangchao Technology purely as the entire sector's indispensable economic anchor. The old world was completely dying, leaving the new era of technology strictly belonging completely to the fast and the cold. While pathetic competitors fought over small market shares, I was already decisively constructing the entire digital future. Absolute asymmetry of information is the ultimate destructive weapon, and I fundamentally owned the foundational source code. The initial investment has officially dynamically multiplied by 10 times, Kai, she logically said softly. This is strictly just the first loop, Sylvia, as the absolute foundation is completely locked. We flawlessly arrived at the destination precisely on the exact minute strictly predicted by the system. I initially started entirely as a penniless scoundrel viciously forced into a dirty, pathetic village trap. Yet I masterfully rewrote the entire script of fate to systematically become the absolute undisputed ruler of this sector. The calculated loop was entirely perfect, ensuring every enemy was utterly crushed and absolutely every variable was completely locked down. I am Kai, acting as the supreme host of the Omniscient Eye and the absolute master of Wangchao. And this completely conquered province is definitively just the absolute beginning of my massive loop.